Chapter 13. It was the first defence lesson with Professor Moody, and Harry sat in the front next to Draco, Neville sat next to Blaise, and Luna sat next to Pansy. Hermione and Ron sat next to each other, and were angry at Harry for being in Slytherin. They were starting to say something before Mad-Eye Moody burst into the classroom. "I am Alastor Moody. The most important thing you need to know about defence against the dark arts is constant vigilance." Professor Moody shouted the last part, and Neville grabbed Blaise's hand, starting to shake in fear. Today's lesson is on the unforgivable curses. You need to know what it is you are fighting against. That way you know how to properly be prepared. Moody walked in front of Neville and placed a book down. "Mr. Longbottom, give me one of the curses." Moody watched Granger's face fill with disgust as he took her familiar. All the students who didn't have an owl were told to bring their familiars. "Miss Granger, your pet will do for this demonstration." Moody took Crookshanks from Hermione and used the Imperia spell on the old cat. "Now, there is another spell. Mr. Malfoy, tell us the spell." Draco looked over at Weasley and Granger, who was close to tears because her cat had been dunked headfirst into water. The Cruciatus curse? It is the torture curse." Draco was scared by the looks that Ron was giving him. "Right you are, young Malfoy. The torture curse is pronounced Crucio." The cat started to twitch, and Neville hid his face in the book, noticing that there was a silencing charm placed around him the moment he opened it. Moody remembered that Neville was there the night that Frank and Alice Longbottom were tortured into insanity. "Stop! Please! For the love of God, stop!" Hermione was sobbing, and Harry was getting some satisfaction from her pain. Harry put up a charm so that his friends wouldn't hear the meowing of the cat. "Now, for the last curse, Miss Granger. Do you know what that curse is?" Hermione's face went white. Surely the professor wouldn't use that curse on a student's pet. "Only one person has survived the curse, and they are in this very room." "Harry Potter, could you tell us the last curse?" Harry saw Moody smirk. "Avada Kedavra, the killing curse," Harry said coolly, and then without blinking, Mad-Eye Moody sent the curse in the direction of Granger's cat. But instead of killing the beast, he killed a jar of spiders. That is how you successfully use all three. I want you to write a 3-foot essay on how these spells are used, and if they can be fought off. Miss Granger ran to her cat and cradled the hurt cat sobbing into her fur. "Oh, Crookshanks," she sobbed into the matted fur of her cat. Honestly, the witch hadn't even bothered to brush the cat. Next up, History of Magic with Professor Malfoy. Luna's dreamy voice was somewhat muffled by Pansy hugging the girl and then picking her up. Pansy is 5'9" and Luna is barely 5. Ready for the best class of the day? Harry practically ran to the classroom, and they saw Hermione in the hall. Her cat was with Madame Pomfrey. I wish that those who had birds could bring them. I would have loved to have seen Malfoy's stupid eagle get the Cruciatus curse. Then he wouldn't be so high and mighty. Ron was hit with a stinging hex from someone. As the Slytherins rounded the corner, they were met with a smiling Dolores Umbridge. "Everything all right, dears?" She smiled at Ron, who was still in pain from the stinging hex. Dolores Umbridge was clearly the culprit of the hex. In fact, it was one of her favourites during school. Dolores was a rule follower on the outside, though most of her friends knew that she would hex anyone who said something bad about young Slytherins who didn't deserve it. You should all be in class. She gave her Slytherins a free pass, but the Gryffindors lost points. "Welcome to History of Magic." Sirius, under the glamour, stood in front of the class and pulled out his wand. "Today you'll be quizzed on what you do know, and then I can adjust the year accordingly." Sirius produced the quizzes from his wand along with quills. These are anti-cheat quills. You cannot copy or cheat from someone else, or your paper will be given to me and the ink will spill all over you. It lasts for weeks. Sirius had made the quills years ago. It was used like a blood quill, but if you thought you were better than anyone, like Granger, it would insult you on the paper. Harry was doing so well, so was Draco. But Hermione was struggling. Her answers all turned into the word know-it-all on her parchment. Ron was trying hard, but he could only answer some of the questions. He gave up and looked at Hermione's paper and tried to write one of her answers. They looked normal to him, and he got hit in the face with red ink. "Cheater! Cheater alert! This one right here is a cheater!" The voice of the quill sounded suspiciously like Bellatrix. Harry smiled when he realized it was Bellatrix's voice, and that she had a hand in making these quills. Harry had met Bellatrix. Narcissa had taken Harry with her to visit her sister, and besides being in Azkaban, Bellatrix was still slightly normal, and she asked Harry to call her Auntie Bella, and promised that she would help him with anything. Today, I see that many of you are up to the year you are supposed to be. I see that you all managed to answer the questions on the Goblin Wars. Miss Granger, I see that you wrote more than necessary, so that is not going to get you extra points. 10 points from Gryffindor for Miss Granger being an insufferable know-it-all. Sirius went over to the Slytherins and gave Harry his quiz back. "Mr. Potter, you and I will be going over your grade after class. I suggest you stay behind." He gave Harry a note with the quiz. "Secret snogging session with me, Sirius." Harry nodded, and when everyone was dismissed, Harry was led to Sirius's office. So this is what this place looks like. Harry saw some of the old books and then was pulled into Sirius's arms. "Less looking at my boring office pup. Maybe you should focus on your mate, who has been worrying all day." Sirius then began to kiss Harry till he couldn't stand, and then he was led to the bedroom. They were cuddling, and then they were called for by Snape. "Harry, you are late for potions." Severus shook his head and took his son down to the potions lab. "To make up for missing potions, you will be helping me to make this taste better." Severus showed Harry the potion, and they got to work. "Maybe if we tried turning it into a pill and coating it with chocolate." Harry was already reading his dad's notes when he said this. "Perhaps we could try making a chocolate vial for the potion." Harry smiled at Severus and then pulled out his own potion journal. "I have tried to make a better tasting nutrition potion, and it worked. Depending on some of the ingredients, we should be able to make this work." Harry showed Severus the page, and they both got to work on this version of the potion. It was past dinner when they finished, and had the potion they desired, with the desired effectiveness as well. "Well, you should tell everyone that you are not dead, and I shall bring this to Percy. Be good," Severus warned, and then kissed Harry on the head before disappearing into the flue. Draco tackled Harry in a big bear hug. "We worried that Dumble's got you." Draco hugged Harry tighter. "I was with Dad. We made the potion for Percy, and it took longer than we thought." Harry was attacked from behind by the Devil Twins. "You are in trouble with a certain Grim, so go to him and try not to die." The twins laughed and then carried a laughing Draco to their room. "You spent the whole day with everyone else." Sirius sounded hurt. "I spent a lot of time with you after you kidnapped me." Sirius faked being shocked. "Me? No, I did no such thing. I was in my office and got attacked by a ridiculously cute kitty cat. And that cat trapped me in my room and was using me as a pillow. It is law. You cannot remove a sleeping cat." Sirius kissed Harry, and Harry lost whatever argument he was going to present. "I can't wait for Tom to be able to see you in person." Sirius was holding Harry close and then began to talk about their dom. "I met Tom when I was visiting Regulus. He was talking to my mother, and then I saw him, the most handsome man in existence. He had been asking my mother about me. He had smelled that his mate was a brother of Reggie's. My mother was trying to get him to choose Reg, but he refused." Sirius chuckled at the memory. Oh, how Walburgia Black had tried to get the Dark Lord interested in her youngest child. "He brought me to Riddle Manor, a very beautiful place. The gardens were in full bloom, and I could lay in the shade of this big oak tree for hours, listening to Tom. He had all these plans for the Wizarding World and how to protect us from the Muggles. He wanted to make a magical orphanage. It would be so that no magical child would grow up with hateful or ignorant Muggles. He wanted to protect every child he saw that was hurting." Sirius remembered it like it was yesterday. Tom had been talking about the Muggles, and then he and Sirius were laughing about making the orphanage right next to Snape's house. knowing that it would drive the man crazy. Tom and I planned on it being next to Snape's, because he hates children interrupting his potion making. Sirius held Harry closer. He loved it when you did, though. He had the house elves bring you up to him when you woke up. I remember James used to find the two of you in the potions lab making a potion. It would be you playing make a potion with baby food. Sirius remembered they only had a little over a year with baby Harry. They were one big happy family, and then Dumbledore ruined it. Tom would hold you, and sometimes he would wake up in the night and make sure that you were all right. James had to key him into the wards, and he knew where the house in Godric's Hollow was, because James would have us babysit you, so he could be with his mates. Draco would be with Lily and Narcissa. They would be watching Draco, and Tom and I would watch you. You loved it when Remus and Fenrir came over. They would take you to the park, and Tom and I would go. I would of course be Padfoot, and you would chase me and Fenrir around for hours. Sirius would normally have a very sore tail for days, but it made Harry happy. Tom would sometimes come to my aid, and other times he would be laughing too hard to be of any help. Harry hugged Sirius and wished he could remember being happy with both of his mates. What was Papa like? Harry called James Papa, Severus Dad, and Lucius was Father. He loved you. After you were born, he held you for hours. He hardly let Sev and Luce hold you. I remember when Lily first held you, James was hovering and took you back after 3 minutes, certain that you weren't happy. Lucius would laugh and kiss James before giving you back, and Sev was the best with you. He would get up in the middle of the night and feed you, just so Prongs could get some sleep. James would feed you this vile-looking baby food, and you would spit it all up on Peter. One time you got it in his mouth. We laughed about it for days. Sirius smiled. Lily was horrified, and James was on the floor laughing. Luce had taken Harry from Peter, and Sev, while laughing, was trying to help James up off the floor. Luce was holding you one night when Peter was over and tried to give you to James, but you cried and held on to Lucius. When James stood up, you went to him no problem. Peter was close to James, and you would start to cry if he went to hold you. That was after Christmas, when he started to work for Dumbledore. Severus and James would play this game of Quidditch with you while Lucius was talking to Lily about whatever was happening in the ministry at the time. You would always catch the baby snitch, and James would always say that you were destined to be a seeker. Harry was smiling and laughing with Sirius. They talked the whole night about the Marauder's time in school, and then some more about Tom. It was the best night Harry had ever had in his entire time at Hogwarts.